Sarah Mitten blasts a new Canadian and even Pan-American indoor record. Will the high school national record for girls shot finally go down this year? And will D3 see their first ever indoor national champion in the shot put? Find out on this week's Throw Show. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Throws Show. Whoa. I'm of course your host Jason, joined as always by the People's Champ, Olympic trials competitor, and head throws coach at Throws University Youth Development Program, Sam Weeks. And Sam, we're only a few days out from USATF Indoor Nationals in Staten Island. And we have a preview for that later on in this episode. But some massive throws happened the last few weeks since we did our last episode. Major things happening in the women's shot put, major things happening in the weight throw, and even in the high school scene. Sam, what's your take been on the 2025 indoor season so far?
People are coming alive. I think that's the best way to put it. You know, we have so many athletes just dropping, I don't want to say nukes, but I'm going to say nukes, just dropping nukes and just having these, crazy outlandish performances, and we're going to be talking about a few.
We're going to start off with probably the biggest performance that's happened on the world scene in quite a while, and that's Sarah Mitten throwing 2068 to break her own indoor Canadian record. She is an indoor world champion, but now not only is she Canadian record holder indoors with a 2068, she also has the Pan-American record. Yep. And now the Canadian shot put record is actually further than the American record, which we'll see later on in this video. Sarah threw the same distance that she threw to break the outdoor Canadian record back at shot put or back at Garage Strength last year in 2024, which we both had the privilege to see. Sam, what are you seeing on this throw? Obviously, the camera angle is probably not the best for technical analysis, but with your coaching experience, what are you seeing with Sarah that she's doing in this throw?
Dude, she's on. Technique-wise, I think, Sarah, for her technique, has always been kind of, on. And, we, like you said, we had the privilege to see that when she threw this exact same mark at GS. But it's to be able to replicate that, in the next season, obviously indoors, overseas, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But it's it clearly shows that, she's in really good shape and she's on with, what her and Coach Parkinson's have been doing with her technique. So, to go 2068, to take the world lead, with a very stacked field like that, that's huge.
Yeah, because Chase Jackson was also in this competition. A field, I think, also had Yemi, so the Olympic champion. So she's staking her claim, but we've also seen Sarah throw really well indoor. She's the reigning world indoor champion. And because we're still feeling the effects of COVID, despite this being an odd numbered year, we actually have a world indoor championship this year to make up for 2021 in China. Do you think Sarah's going to defend her title?
Dude, I mean, the way that she's competing right now, I don't see why not, dude. 2068, that is a massive toss. And, I'm pretty sure she won this meet. I think it was around 30 or 40 centimeters. It was a large margin, but she did that, in a stacked competition. So it's okay, let's see where, she continues to go as, we progress, through the season.
Yeah, and not to take away from any of our other competitors, but Chase also came out, broke the American indoor record thrown 2024. And Chase is making her claim. It's okay, yeah, Chase, Sarah, you go big, I'm going to go big too. And it's these are marks that could easily win a world title indoors here in China. We can get a little bit clearer idea of her technique here. What are you seeing on Chase's throw here?
Obviously, Chase is another one who's super, super dialed. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, she went 19 mid, I think 19 high, but bounced back to setting this new indoor American record. I also believe she has, both indoor and outdoor, which is super cool. I just wanted to drop that fact. But, obviously Chase just dropped this big one, and now it's creating that storyline. If you think of pro wrestling, we're creating these storylines of all right, Canada versus USA, let's see what happens. So obviously, Chase is a very, very good competitor. So I think, as she continues to progress, as Sarah, continues to progress, and how the women's shot field as a whole continues to progress, I feel like we're going to have a really, we're going to have a shootout, and it's going to be super entertaining.
So I have a quick prediction for you. We get to see Chase compete this Saturday in New York. Mm-hmm. Does she go further? Do we see an American record this Saturday?
I mean, I hope so. We'll see. Honestly, Chase, if you're watching this, I need you to drop the ankle weights. Do the Rock Lee Sig. Just do something. Zenkai boost. Unlock your shining guns. We need the big one.
Pull out the 5 pieces of Exodia this weekend. But man, dude, the hits keep coming in the women's shot. But honestly, like we were saying in last episode, that the weight throw is probably the most exciting thing for indoors. But dude, the women have shown up in the last 2 weeks, and even in the NCAA. So we see Kayla Dove out of Houston, and we were doing some research on her going into this episode, going to this shoot, where she's just making the rounds across Texas. She was at Sam Houston, then she went to North Texas. Now she's finishing off her career at Houston, going 1946 with a non-reverse, basically. And Kayla's been around for a while, and she's always hit these massive marks, but now she's now challenging the NCAA record right now, taking the lead from Maya Lesnar. This is number 3 all time. What's your take on this in the NCAA right now?
I mean, just like it's a parallel to the women's pro circuit. It's like the women are really kind of like lighting things up right now, and obviously this is one of those tosses that really puts that validity or the validity of the statement together. It's like, yes, her technique is a little unorthodox, but like she has the core concepts, I don't want to say mastered, but down to a really good point where she's going to drop, these big marks and then, potentially challenge the NCAA record, hopefully fairly soon.
And it's funny what you say about her technique. So she is a little unorthodox. She has a bit more of a knee sweep on the entry, but she also kind of non-reverses, which I think looking at previous videos, she hasn't historically done, maybe until recently. Like, what's your take on like non-reverse spins? Do you think it's more effective for women's shot than men? We used to see a guy like Corey Martin do non-reverses. What's your take on non-reverse spin as a competitive movement?
That's a good question. Obviously, because like where like both of us we focus on like the reverse and coaching. Like I usually have the kids reverse, but I definitely think non-reverses are still a valid means of technique. Especially at a very high level, obviously here. And, I made a Throws You video not too long ago talking about Lawrence Okoye, yes. Yeah. Thank you. Talking about the non-reverse. There are very high-level athletes who still can throw far, using the non-reverse. Obviously, and whenever I look at her technique, I always think of, Adam Nelson. So,
yes.
I wonder, does she challenge or channel that, that beast mode, to really kind of just, put everything into that shot. You can see, it bounced. It literally bounced over the guy. So, there's definitely, some heat behind that.
Well, the thing that she does that Nelson did, which is one of the reasons why Nelson threw so far, the power on the finish of the throw is incredible. It's is the left maybe a little late time-wise relative to the right getting down the middle? Slightly. But what can't be denied is just the absolute stretch reflex she gets in her hips and throughout her whole upper body that just makes the ball fly in the end.
Yeah.
So honestly, we looked at the indoor list, and we're going to talk about that later in this episode. But she is signed up for USA indoors. So I don't know how that's going to affect the D1 season, but if she shows up this weekend, not only is she going to be showing up at NCAAs, she could be making the world indoor team too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we go on to another one, but we're going back to high school. So I went from the pro circuit to college and now into high school as Jessica Oji drops a monster. This was a 4-foot PR for her at the time. And she actually did this at the venue that they're having indoor nationals at this weekend, Ocean Breeze in Staten Island, throwing 57 feet, just short of the indoor national record set by Alyssa Wilson. Ironically, also a New Jersey native. So Dane and you have been glowing up her technique, this whole indoor season. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing that she does here that's maybe slightly different on her other throws? Because even some of her recent meets, she's gone like 51, 52 feet. What is she doing here that has added that extra meter to almost meter and a half to her distance?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think she's another one who has the core concepts, really understood. Like, her technique is very, very smooth. I think in this toss, she's a little long to the middle, but like, the way that she works, the way that she rotates out of the back, the way she rotates through the middle, I think kind of makes up for that, over rotation. And, she's super smooth. Like, that looked effortless. You know what I mean? So, like, when you're at a point where your technique is so dialed in that you don't have to think and you can just act, I think that's where she is. And, like you said, she PR'd by 4 feet. Like, you
That's
don't just
insane.
do that
You don't just
without,
do that, no.
being truly dialed in. So I think, she is one of those athletes who moves super, super well. I'm sure, like, she trains super, super hard, and obviously she's throwing far to back it up. So,
well, what's funny here is so she's only 1 inch off the national record. Mm-hmm. So she just needs to go a little bit further. She still has a few more meets left. She has high school indoor nationals to do this. She very well could be the new national record holder. But one thing I want to add here, because this is her little story behind the whole throw, she did this coming off of almost 0 hours of sleep, an extremely hard lift. Mm-hmm. It's like you were kind of saying, it's like she just kind of let it happen. Mm-hmm. It's those moments where maybe you're not expecting the best result, where the most insane things can happen. Mm-hmm. Like, what's your experience almost like as a coach, but also even as an athlete, where maybe something similar to this has happened?
So I want to give a call back to last episode when we were talking about Ashley's post about Joe training in the rain, and how she said that silver medal was won through the preparation.
Yeah.
I think this is that same story. She didn't win, or she didn't throw this far on that day. Obviously she did, but like, she prepared for this. Like, yes, she had, 0 sleep, and hard lift, but it's like the days and the weeks and the months before that led to this moment.
Right.
So it's like, it goes back to, she's dialed in because she prepared.
Yeah.
She threw far because she was prepared. Yes, there were factors that might have contributed to how she felt going into it.
Yeah.
But the baseline, the foundation, is something that was built so she could just trust on that foundation and throw massive throws,
This is a result of tens of thousands of throws.
Oh, 100%.
Where you can just, like, even if your mind might not be all the way there, you might be really fatigued mentally and physically, you can just let your body do its thing and magic happens.
Absolutely.
So we're going now back into the NCAA with the men here, as Tarek O'Hagan is just proving like he's the guy in the NCAA right now. Not only in the shot put, but as we'll cover later on in the episode, in the weight throw. Another 21-meter throw, current NCAA leader, did it at Vanderbilt. John Smith just knows how to pump him out. We've talked about this almost every episode. We talk about Tarek and Team Ole Miss, but like, I'd like to see Tarek go a little further. Hopefully, finally, get over 70 feet, but also even challenge the indoor national record. He's still a little ways away from that. Mm-hmm. But honestly, based off the way the guy moves, we know he has extremely high strength levels. We know he's an athlete. What's your take on Tarek currently, but also where you could see him come the postseason at indoor nationals?
I mean, obviously he throws far. Like, he's a really good athlete.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to note is he's doing the Fabry start. I don't think.
Yeah, you're right.
Traditionally done that, so I think obviously that just and I want to preference this for athletes who are very proficient with the traditional technique. I feel like taking that slight offset could help create a little bit more out of the back.
Right.
But I only advise doing that if, you are a very high performer. I don't think just anyone should do it just because. I think it's, those athletes who are truly, you know, advanced with the traditional. But that's something that I noticed, and the way that he catches the shot and works the finish is very reminiscent of Krauser.
Yeah.
I was talking to Taman about this toss a couple of days ago, and we were slowing it down, and the way that Tarek catches the shot and then, you know, works his legs into the finish, it's very similar to what Krauser does. So it's like, it's very interesting to make the comparison and seeing like what they're doing and how that's resulting in his performances, you know, at this point.
Well, even when we're just kind of saying, I paused this a little late, but still, you can just see both his feet are still on the ground right as he's about to deliver the ball. He's completely squared up the sector. Like, as he keeps throwing and gets older, like, dude, this is a 22-meter throw waiting to happen.
100%.
Like, it's literally just a matter of time if he keeps doing what he's doing, because his technique's there. We know his strength levels are there. It's just, at this point, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Keep dropping bombs, Tarek. And also at this meet, which, you know, maybe gone a little understated, but still incredible, is the French national record was actually set here as well. So Fred Moudani out of Cincinnati is now the number 2 thrower in the NCAA behind Tarek, throwing 2062 and breaking the French indoor record.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we don't really hear too much about French throwers.
No.
But, like, you know, this is a very competitive mark. He's obviously very young. He's still in college. You know, this is a guy who's most likely going to be throwing 21, maybe mid-21s as he gets older into his career. Like, one thing I really like about his technique, he sort of reminds me of Tunde in the simplicity of his movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, he's very long and he's very smooth, very controlled. Like, it's a visually pleasing toss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, he gets his left foot down, like, near perfect, like dead center of the toe board, gets a good stretch on the ball, very grounded. Like, this is where it goes back to, you know, you were talking about the Fabry start earlier. A lot of kids like to play with these new techniques. They like to do the Krauser slide. They like to find these new innovative ways to try to add distance to the throws. But honestly, if you watch a guy like this, or watch a guy like Tunde, simpler is probably often better for most throwers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, it's that saying, like, work smarter, not harder. Like, why make, you know, the toss harder, especially if you haven't mastered the traditional technique? Like, why add, you know, that offset, or why add another step to make it even more challenging, you know, for oneself? So,
yeah, and he is still a little offset, but one thing I just really appreciate is, like, dude, he's just doing the simple stuff very, very well. And if you have that as the core part of your movement when you're focusing on training, that is where the big throws are going to come.
100%.
Congrats, Fred. That was awesome. So now we're going back to our boy, Nick Curtis, throwing 2027, backing up his 2044 as his opener, going back to kind of his alma mater, but the play, you know, the school that he spent most of his time at in college, Tiffin University, before he went to Iowa. But throwing 2027, Nick is just looking super consistent. He's been hitting 20 every time he goes out to throw. What do you see on Nick's throw here?
Yeah. Not to, you know, call out Nick, but there's a little bit of a fall. But
yeah,
you know, he's one of those athletes who, even though there's a slight fall, he can make up for it at the finish. You know, he gets around, he's very smooth, you know, he's very controlled, just like we were saying, and, you know, he really just punches the finish. And I think, you know, being at Tiffin was just like, it just felt like home, you know, a place where he could truly be relaxed and kind of just, you know, do his thing, you know, be around people that he's familiar with. So it's like, you know, obviously he, like you said, he backed up his season opener, you know, once again going over 20. So I think it was smooth.
One thing I'll mention is just being a film guy, I love how squared up it is. Like, it's perfectly symmetrical with the dragon in the background. This is just a very cool looking video.
Yeah.
I love the way this looks. But I think the interesting about, so take someone like Nick versus, you know, our other throwers like Tamand and Eric Favors. He's very much, I don't know how to describe it, as like a rhythm thrower. Like, he very much is a guy, it's like he kind of sets it up and everything just looks very, very smooth. Like, there isn't much aggression on like his finishes or anything like that, versus someone like Eric where it's like you can tell he's really trying to find his finish and just smash.
Yeah.
And I think it's just interesting when you can see those different styles blend together with the same type of training. I guess where I'm kind of going with this is like, how do you kind of see like what can like Nick kind of has his own particular movement. What do you say are like the key aspects that he does really well that a lot of throwers can use in their own movements?
Yeah, I mean, so Nick is utilizing the static start, which, I think is more of a training tool, but is a viable tool, to make sure that you're smooth out of the entry. Eliminating the whine or maybe like reducing the whine could kind of just help with balance and help with control to allow you to really use the legs to get around and, work out of the back.
Right.
So, that's one thing that Nick does really, really well. And I know that's something that, he coaches, he works on. So I think that's a really good move. And obviously it's like get the right down to the middle, catch the shot back, and then just work a grounded finish, and transfer everything forward. I think even though we have Nick, we have Taman, we have Eric, we have Jordan, they all have their different style, but, the core concepts at the end of the day are still the same. And I feel like because that core concept is still the same, you could have your different styles, but still kind of, do the same execution, have big performances.
Absolutely. And always got to find your own style. So keep watching as many throwers as you can and see what they're all doing similar so that you can bring it to your own movement. So we're talking about we brought him up earlier with talking about Mudani's technique, but then we have Josh Alatunde who's actually breaking down his movement from earlier this season, his opener where he went 2020. He's going to be competing at indoor nationals this weekend. Josh, I don't know why I said Jeff. Josh is 2022 world's bronze medalist. He's a 22-meter thrower at his best. He had some injury problems the last few years, but he showed up at the Olympic trials when it counted. Mm-hmm. So we know that he shows up when it matters. Mm-hmm. What is your take on his movement in these videos? And as he goes into indoor nationals, knowing that he's a gamer when it matters.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said before, Josh is one of those guys who mastered the simple technique.
Right.
I'll put it that way. Like his technique is very traditional, but it's very simple. He's very long, he's very controlled, and he's smooth as butter. One thing that I really like about this video is he's talking about some of the errors that he had in his toss, and he's providing that knowledge of like how to correct it. So it's like when you have one of the world's best athletes willing to share like what he's doing and like where he can improve, I feel like that's something where it's like, yo, if I'm trying to learn the throw, like having someone like Josh like make something like that like is gonna make the world of a difference. Mm-hmm. I learn. Obviously, he, puts, his information out there. It's just like, it's a win-win no matter how you see it. So, big credit to Josh. I hope more, top athletes do something to this extent. Like, you don't have to give full details, but, really kind of just giving us a breakdown of, like, your thought process, I think, is, like, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I said last episode. It's like, the more throwers are putting out content that are just, like, one, gets you interested in their personalities, but also you're just educating the other athletes on how to throw far. Ultimately, that's only good for the sport. Like, it's not going to negatively impact you. It doesn't negatively impact anyone. You're really helping a lot of people, and Josh's insights as an elite athlete are incredible, especially because, personally, he has probably one of my favorite techniques in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. Like, hearing information like this from the source is invaluable.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going through the list of the upcoming American shot putters as they get ready for indoor nationals. This is a training throw from Trip Pippery. I would recommend watching this particular video with the sound on, as his girlfriend does a very, very good commentary of his whole training session and this throw in particular. It's a little further back, so it might be a little harder to see his technique. But Sam, what are you seeing on Trip's throws here as he's leading into indoors?
If we... Going back to the top, first, I just want to note that this video is hilarious. His girlfriend's talking through his training. I highly recommend go watch it. But Trip is one of those athletes who, like, he does a really good job out of the back. And, this is something that I learned from Dane. It's like, the better that you can set up out of the back, the rest of the throw is just going to, piece together. Right. Like, there might be, like, an error, like, here and there, but the better you are out of the back, the higher success that the remainder of the throw will be. And I feel like Tripp, amongst, the top pro men, even the women too, top athletes, he's one of those athletes who does a really good job at that. He's patient, he gets long, he works, double support, he gets around out of the back. So like, I think he does a really good job there, gets us right down to the middle, catches the shot deep, works the finish, has a training foul, but like it's training, so like it's not the biggest deal. He's smooth.
Well, I mean, he's a former NCAA indoor record holder, so he's thrown almost 22 meters. So it's like, if you were to get in we don't know exactly the type of shape he's in. I think he's throwing mid-20s going into this meet for his qualifying mark. Add a meter to that, like, one, he could be making the team, but also like, he could be challenging his PR and even challenging 22 meters. So like, I think that's the cool thing about indoor nationals. It's like, as we'll see later on in the episode, like who's like the top dog in the US right now, but like all these guys are 20. We have Krauser, Joe, and Peyton are not competing at indoor nationals this season. But we still have 4 guys that are throwing 22 meters going into this comp. Mm-hmm. And it's such a toss-up because any one of them not only could win nationals, go to worlds, but also win the world indoor title based off their best marks that they've had. Mm-hmm. Crazy. So the person who I'm kind of speaking of as, that third, fourth guy, we're talking Jordan Geist. He's a Pan American champion, thrown over 22 meters, had a great Olympic trials last year, former NCAA champion. He is a guy that I've been paying attention to since he was in high school. He was a massive high school thrower here in the state of Pennsylvania. His technique, I think, now is better than it's ever been. Yeah. Like, I love watching Jordan throw because you can see the simplicity, but the sheer aggressiveness throughout his entry into the final of the throw is something that's always admired. This is the most recent full throw I could find of him. It's him doing a training non-reverse at Arizona State. Mm-hmm. I love the movement though.
Yeah. No, he definitely looks good. I think Jordan is one of the most grounded athletes, especially at the front. If any viewer out there, if you watch like Jordan's full like reverses, he's very grounded, and that's something that me and Taman were talking about again a few days ago. He's one of those guys who just really works the ground, and that really stems from what he's doing out of the back. Like we said, make sure you're getting open, get the right down if you're a right-handed thrower, and then just really working the finish. And I think Jordan's one of those guys who does that really, really well.
Certainly, and it's going to be exciting to see him this Sunday, see what he does there. And it's like, I have a feeling that this indoor national, with not having Joe, Krauser, and Peyton, there's probably going to be like a little sense of like, hey, let's see, like, we're going to challenge the same marks that those big 3 do. Mm-hmm. And I think between Geist, Tripp, and the thrower we're about to see next, we're going to see some massive marks.
Yeah.
Actually, we're going to have to wait for that thrower because we have another thrower before him that I forgot that I wanted to mention prior, is Zane Weir. Mm-hmm. Zane Weir, competing out of Italy. He had some injury problems last year. I think he also had some issues with his hand. Yeah, so it's heavily taped up. But 21.72 at one of these big indoor meets in Europe. I love, let's talk about aggressiveness with Jordan. I love Zane's aggressiveness on the finish. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who has pop. Yeah. Zane is literally the epitome of pop.
That is facts. that is facts. He obviously, it's good to see him come back, especially because he did have the hand injury. And I do think that was affecting him a little bit towards the back end of last outdoor season. Mm-hmm. But to be in a position where like it's not something that you got to worry about. Obviously, he does have the hand tape, but for him to go out and hit 21.72, it's like it's like I'm back. You know what I mean? Like obviously he's not back in terms of like throwing 22, which he's done before, but he's not far off.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. It's like he probably is in 22 meter shape. Like we can assume like he may have had training throws of 22 leading to still a 21.72 leading into a world indoors. Like
still far.
Like you're talking about a throw that could easily medal at the meet, just with the same distance. So, but I think what I like to see with Zane is like dude, it's just every time he hits the finish, you just see like literally it's like his soul from his body empties out into the ball with just how much effort he puts into the finish. And Zane is probably one of my favorite throws to watch for that reason. He has a level of aggressiveness that I think every thrower needs to think about when they go into a meet so that they can perform their best.
Yeah.
And before we even get into that, we have another thrower, which honestly I think kind of went almost a little under the radar for some people, was Jacko Gill, 2185 at a major New Zealand meet. And he actually beat Tom Walsh here.
Yeah.
So it's not often that Jacko beats Tom on home soil, but he went 2185. Tom went 2086. Obviously, Tom is recovering from a massive injury at the end of last season, which he experienced in Paris with his abductor. But dude, Jacko 2185, this point in the year, guy's looking good.
Yeah, no, he's super smooth, and like you can really see it in this video. Like he's another guy who really uses his leg, especially into the finish. Like, you know, once again, I'm saying it again, like it starts from out of the back, but the way that he catches the shot, you know, into his power position, and how he really gets that right leg driving into the finish, like of course, like he's gonna throw far. Like this is simple, it's smooth, it just makes sense, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know how they count marks towards World Indoors. I believe that this outdoor mark would still count, just based off the nature of, you know, New Zealand has basically the opposite seasons that, you know, north of the equator has. So they're having their current outdoor season right now while most people have indoor seasons. So if this mark counts, like we're going to see him at World Indoors. And again, we're looking at another potential medalist, maybe even gold medalist. And that's, I think, something crazy. Tom has been a multiple-time world indoor champion. Mm-hmm. So to see Jacko, another New Zealander, potentially challenge for that, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool for that country, but also just like Jacko has been one of those guys who's been talked about since he was 16. You know, people thought Jacko was going to break the world record, you know, in his mid-20s. You know, his career didn't go maybe to the expectations that was set before him as a kid. But, dude, like, the guy's a multiple-time 22-meter thrower, multiple-time World Olympic finalist. I think this might be the year where, you know, he's in his late 20s, early 30s. He still has another 5 to 6 years to go, realistically, in the sport. Mm-hmm. This might be his breakthrough year. And this is the guy I was talking about earlier. And one of, you know, Sam and I both being former Division III athletes, we love to see Roger Steen succeed. And man, is he succeeding like never before, throwing 2194, new indoor PR, second furthest throw in the world right now, only by a centimeter. Roger is just one of those really, really good dudes. He, you know, helps out coaching at Wisconsin Eau Claire. He actually did this as alma mater, Wisconsin Eau Claire. And this is following, which we'll see after this video, a very long tour of Europe where he did 5 meets, where a few of those meets he threw over 21 meters. So he was hitting really competitive marks, only to come back to the States and throw a new indoor personal best over 72 feet, just short of 22 meters. There's only so much I can glaze Roger. Sam, help me out here.
Dude, like, obviously, you know, as we highlighted, you know, Roger's the D3 guy who, you know, just kept the dream alive. And, you know, I think he's a true testament for anyone, for any athlete, you know, whether the division or, like, whether the stage, you know, whether you're a high school, like, quote-unquote nobody trying to, you know, get to that next level. It's like, this is a guy who, you know, was in the D3, you know, worked his tail off, you know, to get to a very high level in D3 and was like, you know what, job's not done. Like, there's still much more that I can do. Went into that pro circuit and now has the second farthest throw indoors right now. Yeah. Like he's the true testament of just like never give up. You know
he is currently the favorite to win a national title. A pro level USA national title. Yes. That is awesome. Yes. Like, keeping the dream alive. You're talking about a guy, there's videos of him throwing at D3 nationals where, you know, he's a junior throwing just over 17 meters and 16 meters in those meets. And here he is, throwing with the best of them, challenging 22, becoming one of the best indoor competitors in American history. Mm-hmm. And he backed and this was following this massive tour of Europe where he threw 21 meters. So he was, I looked through it before we started. He competed 2 meets in Germany, a meet in Poland, a meet in Serbia, and then a meet in the Czech Republic. So he was all over Europe, and he was dropping bombs. He was making things count. He was going top 3 at all these meets, throwing between mid-20s to over 21 meters. Like, that's the testament of a real professional thrower, is if you can travel overseas and you can hit the same marks that you do in America that are competitive, and you can still compete with the best of them despite all that travel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like USA's mini mission. We're sending out the world's best. Obviously we have like our top 3, but it's like, 4 through 8, could go anywhere in the world and still drop a massive bomb.
Yeah. And, good luck to you, Roger. I'm excited to see you this weekend. Fun fact, Sam and I got media credentials for USATF Indoors. So if we see you, we want to get a chance to interview all of you guys. If you're competing at USA Indoors this year, make sure you come up to Sam and I. We want to get interviews with you because you guys got stories to tell that we want to share with the world, what led to those moments. So we hope to see you guys there this weekend. Despite all that from Roger, he still doesn't have the world lead, but to be fair, it's only short by a centimeter, but the world lead currently is set by Leonardo Fabri at 21.95. He's just trucking along, continuing what he did, finishing his outdoor season, throwing over 22.90, winning the Diamond League title, but now he's the front runner and favorite for World Indoors. I want to see Fabri go over 22 again indoors. Like, what's your take on Fabri's mark here and how this leads into his indoor worlds?
I think he's a guy who would do it to go 22. It's just like, when will he do it? Obviously, like, he had a heck of an outdoor season last year. How many 20? He had a lot of 22 meter tosses. So, we all know that he is very capable of doing it.
Right.
Like I said, it's just like, when will he do it? Obviously, he's performing really well. He has the world lead right now. Even if it is just a centimeter, he still has the world lead. So it's like, just kind of rolling off that momentum and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, keep in mind with Paris, there was that huge rainstorm that happened during the men's shot put. So he's going to have to deal with that indoors. So, the elements won't play a factor. So that might have like a more even keel vibe for him that might lead to even, who knows, will we see a 23?
That'd be sick.
That would be nuts to see if he could break could we see even a world record indoors and take it away from Krauser? He's thrown far enough. I'm just saying he's thrown far enough. He's done it outdoors. So
I think we all know what my goat is. No, that ain't happening. And even if it did, my goat's coming back.
So we're going to go back down to the high school level. Jackson Cantwell opens up his high school season. If you don't know about Jackson is Christian Cantwell's son. He's been the top high school thrower for the last year or two. But more important than that, he's probably maybe the highest touted recruit for high school football right now. Literally every college wants this guy. He's one of the top 5-star recruits for football as a lineman. He's 6'8". He can bench press 400-pound close grip for reps. He just is what it is. And he opens up his season throwing almost 72 feet. Physically, I think Jackson could throw 7 feet further.
Yeah.
And like, I know that's really weird to say, but it's like, dude, you got to keep in mind, like, he's not like some of these other high school throwers who it's like all year round he's focusing on throwing. Like, he had probably a 4 to 5 month high school football season that he was preparing for. He had to come back from that, and then he had to regroup, start training again, and now he opens up, and he's still just a monster, just dropping 70 feet.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see because this is still very, very early on, especially in his season, and he claims number one, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very exciting to see like how once he gets, truly fine-tuned, like to see where he's at. And I think, it's like now he has the target on his head. Like, obviously he has a large margin ahead of, number 2, but it's like iron sharpens iron, those, let's say 2 through 8 are going to be working even harder. It's like, yo, like this is the number one, but nothing's guaranteed. Like if I, train hard, maybe I can beat him. So I feel like a lot of the boys in the high school realm are really going to start chasing, for that number one spot, kind of like Afro Samurai, if you know that. They're going to be chasing that number one, and, like I said, I just think iron sharpens iron. It's going to be exciting.
You want that number one bandana? No, I hear you. I think what it comes down to too is like I think back to when Krauser in 2011 he threw 77 feet indoors. He has the indoor national record. But at that same time, Vina was throwing 75. Mm-hmm. You had I think if I remember that year, there was probably 6 or 7 kids who threw 69 feet that year. And I think it comes back to what you're saying. When when a high school athlete starts throwing really far, it sets the standard for other high school athletes. Like, okay, 67 feet isn't good enough. Mm-hmm. I need to go further. Yeah. And I think it's once you set the standard of 70 feet, it causes more 70-foot throwers. Yeah. I'm actually excited to see what the high school scene looks like, because I also don't know if this is going to be his last year. He's a junior, but with the way that high-level Division I football works, he might have to give up his senior year. I've heard his father say that he wants him to keep throwing his senior year, because I think everyone's hoping that he could be the one to break Michael Carter's record. But we'll see, because I think this looks more like a safety throw than anything, and he's still throwing almost 72 feet.
Yeah.
So now we'll get into the weight throw, which is Sam's probably favorite topic right now in USA track and field, especially with the women, because the women are just crushing right now in the elite weight throw scene. As Rachel Richardson sets a new world lead at 25-28. Sam, you're the weight throw guy here at Throws University. What are you seeing on this?
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, I think weight throw right now is the hot topic. Yep. There's so many athletes, both in the pro circuit and the collegiate circuit, who are going absolutely bonkers right now. Rachel, obviously, she's already gone 25, I think last week or earlier this season. So to do it again, I feel like that's very huge. If we're looking at technique, I just love the excitement. If we're looking at technique, what she does really well, what a lot of weight throwers do really well, is she gets the ball left. Yep. She works the ball left. She's very patient, and that sets up her rhythm, for turns 2, 3, 4, for, everything to just accelerate and everything to just get ready to, be released. There's not much more to say than that. It's kind of going back to what we were saying in shots, keep it simple. For a hammer, for weight, get the ball left. Get the right foot down, keep it turning, keep working with the implement, which all the top athletes do. Just hit it.
Love it. And I love that celebration. That, to me, when I see a celebration like this, that's what throwing's about. That's why we do this sport. The pure emotional release that comes from a big throw there's nothing like it. Mm-hmm. But this was also backed up, I think, same weekend, right? Jelani Davis goes 25 meters for the first time. U.S. number 2. She's just short of Rachel. Mm-hmm. So it's really, when we go into talking about indoor national predictions, very much a toss-up right here.
Yes.
We have two women breaking just over 25 meters. But the excitement on Jelani was also insane on this throw. What's your take on this 25 meters?
Dude, once again, she's another athlete. Great weight thrower, great hammer thrower. Gets the ball left, generates a lot of speed, works with the ball, and just transfers everything. Super, super smooth on the finish. And, you can tell by the smile on my face, I'm so excited to be, in the same vicinity as these great athletes, just watching them just go to town. This competition is going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely bonkers. Because it's you also got to think, women's hammer in the U.S. has been going crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously, weight and hammer have very similar techniques. It's we also have the top women's hammer throwers also throwing the weight who are going to be in that same competition.
Right.
Oh, it's going to go crazy.
Yeah, because I think Annette is currently signed up, and Annette is the Olympic silver medalist, the first ever Olympic medalist in U.S. Women's hammer throwing history. So it's there hasn't, her weight throw career is a little more understated compared to her hammer throw career. Mm-hmm. But it's we also have to keep in mind, The Olympic silver medalist will also be in this competition. So come meet day, will it take 25 meters to podium?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, that's your prediction?
100%.
100%.
Let me not say 100%. I hope so. I'll put it that way. I
Okay.
hope so. I hope we have. Honestly, I hate. No, not hate. I hope that like 8th place is like 23. Like you have to
23.
I hope it just goes absolutely
Wow.
nuts. Like I have full faith in women's weight is going to be one of the like most exciting competitions this weekend.
Well, you heard it here. 23 meters to make the final. Sam Weeks' prediction. I hope it comes true because honestly, we're gonna see it. We're gonna be there live watching the competition. It's gonna be so fun. The energy is gonna be hot. I can't wait. So now we're getting to the men's weight throw competition, and oh, this guy looks familiar. Oh yeah, it's Tarek because he can also throw 24 meters in the weight. Like he's a 21 meter. I think they said he's like one of 3 athletes in history to throw 21 in shot and 24 in weight. I think the only other person who did that maybe was Corey Martin. I think maybe Dan Taylor. So if we look at it, the other person who did this, Dan Taylor, was also coached by John Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they have a clear foundation of like how to coach weight, how to coach shot. Like, we think of Old Miss. They gave themselves the title, throws you, which sometimes they do hold that down. But it's like obviously like Tarek's another guy where it's like, he's super smooth and he's just gonna put everything into the finish. And we see here he went 24-17, so it's just like. I said it before, weight right now is just on fire.
So the last person to pull the double was Peyton Otterdahl at North Dakota State. Do you think Tarek can pull the double at NCAAs?
I'm not fully convinced right now.
Okay.
Only because men's weight collegiately has also been going bonkers. Like, we'll see. We'll see.
No, I mean, and continuing with the men's weight, we want to go back to the pro circuit, and we got our boy, garage strength athlete Tyler Williams, winning the Millrose Games, throwing 23. And I think what's important to note here is like, yes, we're talking about all these 24 meter throwers. 23 meters is still really freaking far.
Yes.
And honestly, like with this just being his opener, with a lot of these hammer throwers where it's like they do kind of weight throw on the side, their openers in an event like the weight throw isn't truly indicative of the shape that they'll be in come indoor nationals. So it's like we see 23 here, but could this be 24 at nationals? We'll have to wait and see. He's a 76 meter hammer thrower at his best. What do you see Tyler doing here, and how do you think this leads up to him competing this weekend at indoor nationals?
I love personally, like, whatever. If you want to take this as bias, you go ahead. But I love Tyler's technique.
Okay.
Like, he's super long with the ball. He's the definition of like working with the ball, like getting the ball left, but like working with the ball. Like when I was coaching back at Merrimack, like I would send Tyler's videos to like my athletes. I'd be like, yo, watch this guy. Look how he works with the ball. Look how effortless, how long he is. Like, I think Tyler is a very good technician. And I think that, being who he is, like technician-wise, like technique-wise, he's going to go to nationals and just really kind of just flourish.
And another note.
Not nationals. Oh, yes.
Yeah, nationals. It is nationals.
Yeah,
so, another thing to note, former D3 guy.
Yes.
Went to Widener, multiple-time All-American national champion at Widener. He's a 66-meter thrower in college, added 10 meters to that as a professional. Again, if you're a thrower and you think like I still have more to give after college, if you can balance it with your job, dude, keep throwing. It can be so rewarding if you're willing to stick with it.
Absolutely.
So we're now going back to the NCAA, and I feel like even though he doesn't have the lead currently, this whole indoor season has just been the breakout. It's just 2025 has been the year of Daniel Reynolds.
Yes.
He had the NCAA lead in the beginning, throwing over 22. Then he broke 24, and he just keeps getting better almost every meet. So here he is throwing 24.72. It's not quite the lead. He's only a few centimeters off the NCAA lead. What do you see here on his 24.72?
Dude, this is just pure power. You know, when you ask me, like, do you
And this
think-
is, wait, you mentioned this. This is also the 2-turn world record, correct?
Yes, he took over the record from Judd Logan, who, we discussed last week. Daniel was under with his last toss, but now he overtook that. And when you ask me, like, do you think Torek can do both? I feel like, athletes like this who are kind of like that anomaly, like, you never know. Like, right. I would say, like, Daniel's kind of like that dark horse, even though he's proven himself, like, to throw extremely far. But he's just one of those cats who are just out here, just continuing to get better week by week. And it's just like, I don't know if I can just give an answer when we got 2 turns, almost 25 meters. Like, that is crazy. That is crazy. Like, that is so far.
And once you start getting over 25, now you're approaching world record territory set by Daniel Hall. So it's like, it'll be crazy to see. I can't remember I think we'll find out later if he was on the indoor national list. I don't believe he signed up, but it's like, come NCAAs, man, like, you never know. That's where it comes down to, is when you're talking about a game of inches, we have no idea who could potentially come out on top. But could he throw 25? Certainly. Dude, to throw 25 from a 2-turn?
Oh, dude.
But this is the current world leader, because we're going back to the pro circuit, as we have Isaiah Rogers, part of Throw One Deep. He is a training partner to Daniel Hall, throwing 25 meters. What do you see on this throw, and what do you think he can do come indoor nationals? Because now he's the front runner.
Yeah, he is the front runner. Once again, just another athlete who gets the ball left, works really, really long, control that back, but accelerates through each turn, transfers everything into the finish. Big 25 meters toss, is leading going into nationals, but Danny Haw is still there. Danny Haw went 26-35 last year at last year's nationals. He's coming back. From what I've seen, from what he's shared, weight really isn't too much of a priority, but I'm pretty sure it was the same thing last year. So
yeah,
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what happens with both men's and women's weight. I think it's going to be the hot topic of the throws. We'll just wait and see.
I think what I'm excited most about this, as we get into actually discussing our predictions for indoor nationals this weekend, is, to me, this is going to be the big highlight for, like, the athletes we don't get to talk too much about. Yeah. We always talk about Krauser. We always talk about Joe. But it's like, one, we never really get to talk about weight throw too much. Mm-hmm. 2, a lot of the men's shot putters, kind of have fallen in the background, because the top 3, top 4 guys consistently are the guys that are making the news. So it's like, now it's like, okay, what do you have when the big superstars aren't there? And the reality is, the depth of USA throwing is unparalleled. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen. So as we get into our predictions, so we have the start list right now for men's shot put. This is for the USATF Indoor National. Keep in mind, top 2 in this meet qualify for the World Indoor Championship to represent Team USA. Roger has already qualified last year and competed with Krauser to when Krauser won World Indoors. So now some of these marks are a little out of date in terms of, like, this is just the marks that they put in for entry totals. Mm-hmm. Rogers obviously is at 2194, and we've seen a few of these guys go even further since then. Who, based off this list, who are your picks to qualify for World Indoors? Or at least just, who are your picks to podium? And then of those 3, top 2 to make the World Indoor team?
I think just based off of Rogers' season right now, I feel like he's like the front runner. I feel like he's in really, really good shape. I think Josh definitely, just, knowing how well of a competitor he is, I feel like he'll be in a position, to be, within the top 3. In that 3rd spot, honestly, it could be anyone who's ready to show up, honestly. Yeah. Like, obviously you have Jordan Geis, you have Tripp, you have a few other guys, but I don't know. If I had to pick, I would probably go Steen, Josh. Those can go 1 or 2, and then maybe Jordan.
Yeah, you know what's funny is it's so hard for me to guess with Josh because 2020 is considered a lower mark for him historically. But the reality is he had lower marks going into USAT and going to trials last year, and he threw like 2190. So it's like there's proof there that Josh, and I've seen him do it before. Like I think he set an indoor personal best when they had the Mid Ocean Breeze back in 2019. So I watched that throw live, and I was like, oh, dude! Like at the time, I thought Josh was like the best looking thrower that day. So it's really hard for me to go against Josh, but I think I pretty much agree with you. I think Roger. Well, I guess in your mind, like I think Roger's going to take the title. Do you think he's going to take the title, national title?
He's the front runner.
He's the front runner. Okay. So if I were to pick, I think I'd choose your same three. I think I'd go Roger, and then based off of Tunde's historic performance internationally, I think he might be the second guy on the team. But honestly, dude, that non-reverse and like Jordan Geist has been a gamer when it counted the last year and a half when he's competed. Jordan Geist is probably going to be the next guy to really challenge those marks. And if he were to win, it would any four of those guys would not surprise me if they were to win.
Yeah.
So for the women's shot put, it's a bit more skewed in terms of performances here. One thing we have Chase competing, obviously, which we mentioned earlier in the episode. Chase just is coming off an American record. She is in incredible shape. I want to see her throw over 20 again. Hopefully she can break the indoor American record as well. That would be awesome. But like kind of looking at, the competitors that sign up for this meet, like it's, to me, outside of maybe Maggie Ewan, it kind of does seem more like a fight for second place. Maggie, of course, at her best has thrown over 2040. She hasn't, had maybe, it says their entry total is 1770, which is a pretty low mark for Maggie historically. So we'll see where she's at shape-wise. But one thing I kind of want to take note of is like someone like Abby Moore, who trains under Justin Rohde, she's had a breakout indoor season, and currently behind Kayla Dove, has the third best entry mark going into this meet at 1873. So if I were to take it the way I see it, it's like you're going to have Chase on top, but who's going to fill out the rest of that podium in your mind?
That's a good question. I think Chase is that front runner, especially, going 2024.
Yep.
Excuse me. So I definitely think that she's definitely in the position to take that number one. Obviously, you have Maggie, you have Kayla, who we talked about earlier, who is in fairly good shape. Maggie is coming back from injury, but, from what she's been posting online, she says like she's in good shape to go compete. So like, honestly, you never know. And then obviously Abby popped off. So like I'd like to see her continue to do that. And maybe she does that at nationals. But, you also have an athlete like Adelaide who honestly you cannot sleep on.
No, I mean, she went to the Olympics in Tokyo.
I feel like Adelaide is one of those athletes who doesn't really get that limelight, but shows up when it matters most. Like just out of nowhere, like I always say all it takes is one, and I feel like Adelaide is one of those athletes who, given 6 throws, she is going to take an opportunity of just one.
Even another name to fill out the list here is Jessica Ramsey. She's also thrown 20 meters.
She has.
So it's funny because like on paper it seems like, oh, it's just Chase and then everyone else. But in reality, when you kind of look at the form chart and the history of these athletes' performances, it's actually a bit more competitive than maybe we're giving credit for. Like realistically, it's like, how much further can Abby throw when you set a massive personal best like she did early in this indoor? Can she throw 19? Physically, I think she definitely can. Justin has alluded to some really far marks with heavy balls in training. So it's like some of these marks are leading up to really, really far distances of a 4K. And it's like, it all comes down to, where you at on the day. But like we're seeing that Kayla going 1940, man, she might just walk away with an NCAA title this year, and she might walk away making a world indoor team.
That'd be sick.
That would be sick. So now we're going to the men's weight throw. We just talked about Isaiah Rogers. He's the only man this year to throw over 25 meters. But if you look at the rest of these distances, we have a few more 24s creeping in and some 23s. We got our guy Tyler Williams down in there. But like you said, Daniel Hall is back.
Danny Hall is in there.
He is the world record holder in the weight throw from last year. In your prediction, 1, does Danny Hall squeak out another national title? And 2, does he pull out a new world record?
I hope so. That's me being
Or does Isaiah Rogers do something even bigger? Like, you know.
Do we have 2 guys go over 26?
That would be insane.
That'd be insane. That'd be insane.
Crazy.
That would be absolutely insane. I would lose my mind. Like, I'm already losing my mind just thinking about it. Pause. But it's just like, obviously you have Danny Haw. I posted the video this morning of him throwing 26. Like, he's going to go crazy. You have Isaiah Rogers. But then, like, you also have Rudy Winkler. Like, he's on the list, you know, like he's one of the guys who performs really, really well. You have Alex Young, another guy who performs really, really well. You have our guy, Tyler Williams. Like, you know, he's someone who also performs really, really well. Like, all of these guys perform really, really well. So it's like...
Yeah, and we can't even sleep on Tanner Berg at 24-7 too.
Like,
we talked about him earlier this season. You know, all these guys, and that's, I think, the thing that makes throwing so fun. And with track and field, it's like it's so easy to make these wild predictions about throwers going to these meets, and that's part of the fun of it, because they can have these massive marks, or they could have more understated marks. And when it comes to the actual meet day, you really don't know what people are going to bring to the table. So with someone like Danny Haw, it's like, yeah, he might be third on the list going in, but is that 24-meter throw really indicative of the actual shape that he's in?
We'll find out.
We'll find out indeed.
We will find out.
And then we're going to finish off with, honestly, if you're talking about depth,
yes,
this is probably the deepest competition of all 4, and that's the women's weight throw. As Rachel Richardson's coming in with a 25-meter throw. We also have to mention Jelani Davis needs to be upgraded to another 25-meter throw. Aaron Reese, who was the surprise qualifier for the Olympics last year in the hammer throw, went 24.77. So we're looking at 4 women here, all over 24, and Janaea Stewart, who's a former national weight throw champion. Like
Brooke
and Annette. Brooke has thrown 25. I'm not exactly sure what Annette's overall weight throw PR is, but throwing over 23 this season. You have... it's so funny because it's like you take this out of the 8 competitors, 6 of them could all win.
Dude, it's like you said, it's a very...
I'm sorry, out of the 9 competitors, my bad.
Very deep competition, and honestly,
no,
bro,
it is 8.
I'm rooting for all these women, bro. I'm rooting for every single one of them. I think that once, like I said earlier, iron sharpens iron. Yeah. I think this is going to be the competition where it's like we're really going to see that.
Well, I think the cool thing about the weight throw psychologically for an athlete that makes it different than almost any other event in track and field. This is your world championship.
Yeah.
You're not this is the biggest competition in the world to prove that you're the best weight thrower in the world.
Yeah.
So when you're peaking, like, you can do your absolute peak for indoor nationals versus trying to play the game of, I want to be in really good shape, but I don't want to burn myself out because I got a world championship that I'm trying to qualify for as well. When you're going all out, and it's like, in some ways, it's like, there's really no impact on your outdoor season from how you perform in the weight throw. You might as well just go all in, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely think that, like you said, this is where it's like, all right, just put it all out there.
Yeah.
You know, just let it happen. I do think a lot of these women still just, you know, mostly just train hammer because, you know, outdoor seasons, you know, the moneymaker, that's where, like, everything is. But it's like, all right, it's like weight is that test. Like, let's see where you're, you know, how good in shape are you in, you know, physically, obviously, competition-wise. It's just like, go out there and just see what happens. And, you know, I've said it several times. I'm very excited for this competition specifically.
Yeah, and what's funny is, like, you know, the other events we kind of said, oh, who's going to win? I don't know how to call this, so I'm not even tempted to make a prediction. Because when you have someone like Brooke, who's a world champion, you have someone like Annette, who's the Olympic silver medalist, and then you have Rachel, who's been going 25 in multiple different meets. You have Jelani, who just thrown over 25. I guess my only question would be, instead of who wins and who makes the podium, does it take 25 to make the podium is my question.
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
What's your prediction?
Dude. 3 women over 25 is very possible.
It's very possible.
The thing.
It is very possible.
I would love to see it personally. I think all of these women are going to throw extremely far. They're all going to throw a PR. I'm throwing that out there. They're all going to do their thing. They're going to go crazy. Top 3 over 25. Let's run with it.
Yeah.
Let's run with it.
I think what I'm expecting is a show.
Yeah.
They are going to put on a show. We are so excited for the women's weight throw. Honestly, in terms of depth, probably my favorite event to look forward to this weekend. And that's where it's like, we recommend everyone who's watching, if you can find a stream, I think USATF TV will be streaming some of the throwing events. Try to watch them and support throwers.
Absolutely.
Sam and I will be there. We're going to be trying to interview as many throwers that we can find. Our goal is to try to tell you about their stories, communicate their journeys, because throwing post-collegiately is hard, man. And it's like trying to get up every day, train, go to the gym, eat properly, do what you need to do to recover properly, all for these singular moments to compete at a national championship and potentially qualify and compete for Team USA. These are everything to these athletes, and we want to share their stories. So this goes out to people watching and people that are going to be at indoor nationals. Come up. If you see Sam and I, come say hi. We'd love to talk to you. But we want to talk to you, the throwers. We want to make sure that we can tell your stories. So we hope that you tune into the YouTube channel over the next 2 weeks, because my goal is to try to get out all the interviews that we can over the next week or so after indoor nationals. And honestly, I'm really excited for this, because this is going to be the first time you and I are working together on this. We get to interview these athletes, share those stories. Sam, what are you most looking forward to for this weekend?
Wait.
Just the wait? Fair enough.
No. Like, in all seriousness, you know, obviously just being in the presence of so many great athletes, both, you know, track and field.
Yep.
You know, just being in that, you know, position to just watch, you know, all the greats just come together and do their thing. Obviously, like you said, share the story, specifically of the throwers, because, you know, we need more of that, you know, to push that sport forward, or push the sport forward. We need more of that. So, you know, I'm very excited to, you know, get to know these throwers a little bit more, and, you know, get to hear their story, and, you know, hopefully bond, and, you know, just create that rapport. So, you know, that's what I'm looking for, but I'm really excited for women's weight.
So we hope you enjoyed this week's throw show. Ultimately, we hope you're watching here so you can not only, you know, support other throwers, but also maybe learn how to improve your own throwing, which is why we also have programs. We have books. We have technical analysis by my man Sam here. He's one of the top coaches for youth development and one of the top throws coaches in the world for Throws University. He reviews your throws. He writes your programs. So head over to throwsuniversity.com today so you can drop some bombs. We'll see you next time, everybody. Peace.
Peace.